Hello, welcome to another Marvel Future Revolution hero guide. This video is going to be on Storm. She is my main character. I've been playing her since beta, and Storm is a character that is very often misunderstood in my personal opinion, and I would like to go through Storm and talk about her today, talk about why in particular you might want to play her, what skills, builds I use, gear I use, specialties, the whole deal, Omega cards even. So if you're all interested in this Storm character, this video is going to break down everything I know about Storm and can share with you guys. Now, the first thing I want to let you know about Storm is if you are looking to play somebody who is very good in 1v1 duels, who is looking to continually climb your PvP ladder in 1v1 dimension duel, for instance, all the way up to the top, you're going to be at a deficit with her. She's not a good solo PvPer. And I think this is where people misunderstand her, because when you go to the weekly ranks and all that, you're pretty much going to see fairly quickly what kind of heroes are at the top. We have Iron Man way up here. There's a lot of Spider-Man, etc. Number 5 here under X-Force, we have a Black Widow. And so you're going to see a lot of people right around the 1 million to 1.3 million power playing Spider-Man and characters like this. There's very good Spider-Man builds out there. There's very good Iron Man builds out there. They have invincibility frames, all of those things. The reason it is difficult for Storm in 1v1 PvP is because the way her abilities are basically set up, she is more of an accelerant for crowd control in terms of damage output, for nuking down AoE mobs. I think she's going to be a very high tier character when the new invasion mode comes out. We don't know much about invasion mode, but from what it sounds like, it's going to be a horde type of deal where basically you sit there and you fight against waves of enemies. I hope that's what it is. That's what all of our best guess is at the moment. And if that's the scenario, that's something that Storm literally excels in. Now, keep in mind, I use the lightning build with her, and let's get into her skills and why she's good in AoE, as well as things like Omega War, for instance. I think she's quite good in as well. Now, her primary deficit in skills is that she doesn't have any moves that allow her to reposition her movement. She only has abilities that she casts with an animation. Some of these animations are quite long. For instance, when you watch this one, you have to cast it up. But you're going to notice she also does some pretty good amount of damage too with her abilities. Her best move is Weather Witch Electrocute, which is a single target damage move. And this has the chance to trigger things like Shock, which we'll talk about in the passives as well, and this is your bread and butter. The problem is she has long cooldowns. It's a 21-second cooldown to use her effectively best single target move, and then her next best single target move is a trade out with her next best move, meaning Icicle Crash, which is a shield that allows you to be invulnerable and then do AoE damage, is also traded out for the other move that is going to allow her to do single target damage, being the Hellstones. So for this reason, her defensive and offensive builds are different, meaning her single target DPS is lackluster when it comes to things like Dimension Duel or any single target PvP, because what you're trying to do is stay alive, which is a counter to your single target DPS, and because you don't really have those iframe type of moves or way to challenge people in 1v1 other than just pure DPS, you really are at a deficit there. But these moves allow her in Omega War to be both extremely deadly with AoE as well as be able to bait people. So I have another guide out there called the Hybrid PvP and PvE guide. It's going to be a different build than what I recommend today, because for today, what I want to talk about is PvE and fighting basically monsters, bosses, things like that. That's where she excels in. She has really good single target DPS on bosses. I've been able to compete fairly well. She's not going to compete with Iron Man when it comes to single target DPS. If the Iron Man's got really insane gear, I, in my own personal opinion, but she's not the bottom 4. I think she's top 3 for PvE DPS. If you ask me, in my personal opinion, it'd probably be like Iron Man, Cap Marvel, and then Storm would be in contention up there, is what I would currently believe. The reason I like her so much is because of the AoEs. Her AoEs are all good. You can pick almost any variety of her AoE, and it's going to do significant AoE damage or do some kind of crowd control to PvE mobs. Again, this is why I think she's going to be amazing in Invasion. Now, let's start talking about the actual build that we're going to be using here. The first one is always going to be Weather Witch Electrocute, because that one is just nuts. That's basically your bread and butter. Your second move is either going to be the Invulnerability one you want to see here, if you just want that extra bit of survivability. This is really good against bosses when you run out of dodge, because the big AoEs, let's say on like Maestro in fight, the big AoEs, right? When he goes to do that, you can just invulnerability these. One negative part about this shield is you can't just use it any time. You actually have to be targeting someone and be in range, which is a really weird thing to have for defensive ability. However, this Icicle Crash move is your next best single target move. It is only on a 16-second cooldown, so you can change it to that if you want more DPS. Your next best AoE move is going to be the Thunder Crash of Lightning attack. Some people use the fourth one because it has the same guard break and it attacks on where the enemy is and lasts for a little while. However, I prefer attacking from where I'm at because typically mobs are moving, so it's much easier to do this version as well. Plus, it's a lower cooldown and the damage is actually higher, though it costs more stamina. Now, the next move, the fourth and fifth, are kind of your variable slots that depend upon the build you're doing. Because for me, I'm doing double lightning because I'm using pure electrical build as much as possible for reasons we're going to mention in specialties and gear. But if we look, there is multiple ways you could go with this. I'm going for a quick, only 6.6 second move just to hit real fast to try to one-shot mobs that don't have that much health, for instance, because I have 1,000,000 power. Then there's the second move here, which you can do a variety of. This is a shield type of move. So for instance, you could go up here and decrease your cooldown and have this as your first move in your one spot. So on auto, they prepare the decreased cooldown, and then the other moves will be cooldown, because this one does actually have to be used first. But she gets a large amount of decreased cooldown. You see it's 43%. Oh, hi, Kitty. Kitty's jumping up here to join us. So you can have that. Otherwise, you can use the defensive shield. It just gives you more defense and does apply like sort of the frost effect on them when you walk through them. There is other variants of this you can go, like you can surround yourself with an ice barrier, which is the one we have, but you can also surround yourself in lightning, and it will zap people around you like another lightning damage move, and will also recover stamina. Now, this is an underrated move. I don't use this in boss fights, the blitzes, just because I normally kill the bosses before I really need more stamina. But if you don't have ridiculous gear, this is a very good one to use because it's another electric one, which again, we're going to talk about electric sort of being the best. But on top of it, recovers stamina, which you're going to need for one of the builds that we're about to talk about. Now, there's other moves we can mention. There's your Snowstorm one with the giant AoEs. That's a ton of damage and all that. The reason I don't use these is because of the casting time. It takes a really long time to use this one. If you want to use this one, you can also use the Saphir that throws this ball, which is a little bit slower, okay? You can even use the Deep Freeze on the left here to slow down PvE minions since it's an instant cast and has a low cooldown. Though I like the Deep Freeze ball myself. If you really want maximum AoE DPS, just go with Central Whirlwind on pressure manipulation. And that right there, what you're seeing right here, is probably your maximum PvE DPS build for both AoE and single target, okay? All of her moves can be used. All of them can be used. Some of them are significantly better than the others, though, okay? For instance, this one, it's always pretty much the final one. You're going to win on this one, unless we're really trying to do some kind of guard break build or something. I thought there was another one in here I guess they're all medium, but there's another one in here that's got high guard break. So she has a lot of high guard break, but no highest, so you can look into that. Here's one other thing. She has a dodge rate ability that's on it lasts for 8 seconds, and it's on a 30-second cooldown, which means that you can use this one with the other decreased cooldown skill effectively about every 20 seconds, 19 seconds, right around there, okay? With 8 seconds means about half the time you can increase your dodge rate, and the dodge rate does go up with the skill level of this, so you can increase your dodge rate by a whole ton, and it's not just her, it's actually for allies too, meaning in PvE Dark Zone, if you guys all group up, she can make everyone's dodge rate go through the roof. A lot of people's dodge rates will go significantly higher than what they already have, for instance. So these are the builds. There are other moves, like for instance, this one here is a very short version, and it's only 8-second cooldown, doesn't require much stamina, so you can use it to kind of push back minions, which you do have to sometimes do because of the fact she's immobile and people are going to get on top of her. But that's what this one's for. It pushes back all of your minions as well as does a good amount of damage. So Those are the moves I use. Now, let's go ahead and get on to what we're talking about in terms of the gear. If I go to the actual gear here, I prefer myself to use the Hydra set. Primary reason, the Lightning Cloud class skill and critical rate. I build her around critical rate and critical damage when possible. I can see my critical damage is at 143. Critical rate is at 57.2. These stats can absolutely get better. For instance, I've been working on my Spider-Man, and I'm using a lot of attack percentage type of stuff here in order to get higher damage. Another reason I'm using attack percentage and crit is because if we actually go and we look at here under the specializations, what you're going to notice is the 4 that I'm using is Thunderbolt, which is right here, and has a chance to stack shock. So when you get 5 stacks of shock, you're going to decrease your attack by 25%, and you can stack shock pretty quickly with that single target one because it zaps multiple times over and over again. The single target move is also good against people with high dodge rate because it's a multiple hit, as is the other single target move that shoots the 6 Hellstones. For that reason, she can actually be pretty decent against people that have high dodge. For instance, like Spider-Man, she can do okay. Now, the Lightning Rod here is another move I use. It creates chain lightning that spreads up to 3 enemies to deal damage equal to a percentage of your attack when attacking. This is a reason that I do have as much attack percentage in the cores as possible. The chain lightning, even on your basic attack, can happen, meaning that you can almost be like Doctor Strange and clear through minions on basic attack, which is pretty exciting. Plus, she has a double tap on her basic, so you can understand why the lightning spread is pretty good. Yeah. So you look on here, this increases all skill damage and required stamina. I use that one because once again, she's kind of an AoE one-shotter or a single target one-shotter. So I try to use her to do as much temporary, just big burst type of DPS at once. That's why I think she's good at. Plus she has the stamina recovering with the lightning move. Then we have here, lightning once again, shock damage for each equipped lightning clouds skill. So if we get this up to 10, we're going to have 5% for each skill. If we do all 6 of them, that's 30% more class damage, which is also going to affect stuff like all the moves we picked, the lightning shock damage, because there's RNG on how many shock stacks you can apply. So if we apply more shock stacks, we're getting more damage, for instance, off of this move. So you can see where the combo gets really, really crazy with all of these builds together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run real quick here. I'm going to solo, if it will let me, I'm going to solo a Blitz 100 here, and I'm going to show you exactly how this build works. Now, it, for me, has been the build. I've used the Icicle, either the 6 Hellstones or the big invincible AoE. You can use either one of those. That's going to be your biggest kind of deciding factor. The other skills are pretty self-explanatory, and there's not really too many great builds for her. The one thing people are going to ask about is you use lightning, but how about, okay, use the lightning. Well, how about the air? What about the frost? Well, here's the thing. Her best moves aren't frost. And we can try to make the argument that, well, you said that she's really good at Omega War and stuff. Yeah, I do believe that's the case, because what I currently believe is that you get into Omega War, you get people to ignore you, and then you do as much AoE damage as you can and try to nuke through people, break their guards. You just have nonstop AoE and harassment, so you can hit multiple people at once and kind of turn the tide of the battle. You're not sitting there destroying one person and being the single point of reason you're winning. You're progressively helping your team by AoEing down as much as you can. You have to realize, if you pick Storm and then you go and you see on these tier list people do, and I don't really make tier lists. I'm considering making a tier list just to show that they're, see, look at that. That was like over 20% of his health, like 23% of his health or something, just with my first single target move. You see what I mean? The damage is crazy. I mean, that's crazy damage. This is Maestro, right? So a lot of people do tier lists. Tier lists are really bad. The reason I don't recommend tier lists at all is because they're going to give you very poor information. They're just going to say this character is better than another, and it's completely wrong. A lot of the tier lists I've seen put Storm and Captain America on the bottom. I think if you ask any of the top Captain Americas, like Aatrox, they're not going to agree with that pick remotely. In fact, they're going to say something like, you probably don't understand the point of having these characters in the game. The game is just released with 8 heroes in the game, and other game modes are coming out to the game. As soon as they release the game mode where you need a tank, Captain America is now the best hero in the game. As soon as they release a game mode, which it sounds like they're doing, where you have to deal with AoE mobs and survive that, suddenly Storm is really good. Right now, Spider-Man, Black Widow, they're all great, right? Iron Man, they're all great, because guess what? The only thing there is in this game at the moment, at the in-game, and I say this as a well who's played since beta and I would assume the top content creator in this game at the moment, this game is pay to win as it gets in PvP. So people who are coming out here with tier lists saying this character's the best, this one's the best, the only one I agree with is Iron Man. That seems to be the best hero because everyone I talk to, including people I respect like Halfsin, telling me Iron Man's pretty much the best hero. I've also played Iron Man 100. I can definitely see it. The other points on the tier list, ignore the tier list. It's just people who are making videos to try to get clicks. Everyone, they know they're looking at, everyone can see in search analytics. We can all see it. Tier list, ignore it. It's just false information. With that being said, I much appreciate your guys' support. Hopefully this breakdown of where Storm is good and bad has helped you at all. If you appreciate the actual transparent, real information, feel free to subscribe and like. I like y'all, and I'll see you on the next video.